The genius of Devil May Cry 3 storytelling, I thought, has always been that when the characters actually get together to have conversations and talk to each other, they have really something to say. They have real human insights and they share real human ideas and motivations. And this is something that up until 2005 in video games was all but absent from the medium. You have a lot of video game characters like the classic characters that just don't talk. They don't have dialogue, and we don't have any idea about what they internalize, if anything. They're very one-dimensional. But Devil May Cry 3 introduces 4 characters to us that couldn't be more different from one another. The elements at the core of the storytelling in Devil May Cry 3 are staples of traditional Japanese values, which are family. Family matters in Japanese culture, and especially in Devil May Cry 3, it's all about family matters. The story revolves around 2 pairs of families. One consists of 2 brothers, Dante and Virgil, who couldn't be more different from one another. One is necessarily the antithesis of the other, and though they have lost everyone else in their life, they grew up orphaned, losing their mother and not knowing their father. They battle each other like arch enemies. They are rivals, and they are more or less from opposite side of the tracks. They are intertwined with another family, both families having very deep internal conflicts, but they are intertwined with perhaps the most important character of the story, who's not even the protagonist. She is the narrator. She only tells the story at the very beginning and at the end, signaling that the story has already happened. But that's a great device because you now pay attention because you know it's going to be good, like a bedtime story. And she is the daughter of her father, who is a sick and twisted man who she has every right to want revenge against. And so these 4 characters begin with a free-for-all. They're all fighting over the same thing. They're all fighting over power because they weren't powerful enough in their past. And they're all necessarily against one another. It's like a rat race. And they all have their own motivations, and they all have their own desired outcomes, except for the main character, who at first doesn't give a damn. And that's one of the things that makes him so compelling, and his progress that is charted throughout the game, his development is so much more significant because of how he develops his character and his views. So starting at the beginning of the story, we're shown 2 brothers, and we don't know who is good and who is bad, which is the great thing about this game. The perspective really makes everything so much more intriguing and fascinating and compelling because it's not a traditional good versus evil story. So at the beginning, we're shown 2 brothers that have an epic battle. It appears as though one loses and one doesn't make it. And that's suspenseful until about 1/3 of the story, and then we find out what happens. But the important character is Dante, who we learn from the opening of the game. He is perhaps the most badass character ever invented, and that's at least until we see his brother. And then it's like, oh wow, this goes to 11. How am I going to fight this guy? Even though he is the antagonist, you can't help but like him. He's so fascinating. So Dante, he is bold and brash He's got a great sense of humor, and he doesn't take anything too seriously, which is his problem at the beginning of the game. But the thing that is so human about him is that he is fortune's fool, and everything that he touches turns to shit. And he has rotten luck with women, and he's got a lot of things wrong with him. So he goes through the story, and he's far from perfect. You're able to connect with him because he's like you and me. And then there's all the great cinematics and the very stylish way this story is put together. But basically the characters, there are two villains and two heroes, and even the villains are not, well, at least one of them is not, he's not totally evil. He's certainly the anti-hero. They all have their own perspectives about what's right and wrong. But when Dante learns, he learns by looking at the other family. These two families mirror one another's problems, even though they're not exactly the same. Dante learns. He learns from the woman. He tells her, at first, I didn't give a damn, quite frankly. But because of you, I know what's important now. Whether that's romantic or not, that's not the point. But Dante, he has the Rick Blaine scenario at the end of Casablanca. He loses everything that mattered to him. Just like Dante, at the end of the game, he loses the last family that he has left. But all there's left is friendship and companionship. And he goes from there. So it's like the better part of his nature that pushes him there, and he learns to be better. He learns to mature. And Lady, she loses her father. The whole story, she wants revenge, and at the end, she gets revenge. Her father tries to manipulate her once again, calls her out, Mary, please help me. She's so cold. It's such a dark moment. Oh, Mary died a long time ago. Don't you call me that again. And she kills him. And then, unexpectedly, she breaks out into hysterics. She starts crying. She's like, oh, here I was. I thought I wasn't going to cry. And there are some sad moments at the end of the game. But the game doesn't linger in sentimentality. It cuts to the credits. And you get back to the highly stylized, high-paced action that makes the game as a whole, it's not just a great story, it's some of the greatest gameplay ever done. But the meaning of Devil May Cry, when that becomes clear to you, it's a stroke of genius. The plot is so labyrinthine that no one can figure out the twists and turns and what actually is going to happen in the story. And this is why it's the greatest story ever told in a video game, because it broke so many conventions and constraints that were holding down narratives in the video game, and there's still never been anything quite like it. Nothing that's so compelling and easy to follow and well written. Everything, the dialogue, the entire character arcs, it's all first rate, and it's the best story ever done in the game.